Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit homegain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to homegain.com. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined by my guest, Louis Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, Real Estate Radio is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's housing and credit markets. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or real estate needs, the best number to reach out to us is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030, or via the web at realestateradio.dcmetro.com. Before we went to break, we were discussing tips on what you can do to try to help get your loan approved and the steps that you should take, 2 to 3 months before you actually, write that contract on the house. We went through the first two items. The third one is credit score optimization. And really what this means is that being very careful in the months leading up to when you apply for the loan, on all your credit cards, you want to make sure that you keep a cap of 30% of what you let your balance is compared to what your high credit limit is. So if it's a $10,000 limit, you don't want your balance to ever go over 30% of that, or $3,000. So, going over that amount will substantially lower your credit scores. And, it could mean the difference between you a 0.25% on an interest rate from a 750 credit score to a 680. It could be even more than that. So the big thing is, not going around shopping for a car, looking at life insurance, applying for new credit cards, anything that involves somebody else pulling your credit leading up to the time that you're going to apply for that mortgage, because it's going to throw another red flag up. If an underwriter sees multiple inquiries on your credit report, then you're going to have to give letters of explanation for the reason why you were trying to or apply for a credit card or take out another loan. You're going to have to explain each and every one of those items. So that is the third one. And the fourth one is appraisal concerns. You need to be working with an agent that really knows the market, needs to make sure that the price that the home is being listed at is reasonable, meaning that they think that the appraisal could come in at that, because ultimately it does you no good to write a contract on a $500,000 home that the agent knows very well is only worth $450 and it's not going to come in there, because the seller probably priced it that high for a reason. They're probably trying to break even on it. And if the appraisal doesn't come in, are they willing to come to the table? That real estate agent needs to find out this information ahead of time. What is the seller's game plan if the appraisal doesn't come in? I mean, all too many deals will fall through because of this. And on the buyer side, it's great if the appraisal comes in low, because you're hoping that the seller will reduce it down to the sales price. But what happens if it doesn't? Is this
Brian, you see the real estate agent take a listing at the higher price at the seller's request,
telling them what they want to hear? Yes.
That's a real disaster. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's very important to be realistic in pricing these homes, especially today, because the appraisal guidelines, lending guidelines, everything has gotten so stringent that you really, if you're going to push the envelope, make sure that there's the comparables to do so. Louis, what you're alluding to is so many agents, just to get the listing, will tell the home buyer, you think your home's worth $500? Oh, that's perfect. Let's list it at $505. I think that's a good number to start with, versus giving them the stone cold facts of in the last 6 months, this is what's sold in your area. Your home is about the same to similar square footage, bathrooms, kitchen, upgrades. You should be listing at $450. Well, of course, what's their automatic reaction, Louis? Well, I think we need to go interview another agent, right?
Absolutely. So if agents are worried about losing the business, what they don't understand is they end up losing the business anyway, because the house doesn't get sold.
Yeah.
At the price that the homeowner wants. And you saw that we see it in our HomeGain survey. We see a waterfall. Homeowners think their price is worth X. Real estate agent thinks it's worth X minus. They end up listing it for lower than that, and it ends up being sold for lower than that in many, many cases.
Yeah.
You have this waterfall where the homeowner has these high expectations. The realtor talks them down from the ledge a bit, lists it, and then in many instances, maybe not in the D.C. metro area, but around the country, the home price is lower, the actual sale price is lower than it was listed at.
Yep. I mean, I think that happens a lot in the D.C. metro area as well. And I think, really, in order to be a good professional, you need to be able to lay out all the facts. I mean, and the statistics and what stuff is sold for in the last 6 months, and not just in the last 6 months, the last 2 or 3 months, because as I stated before, the lending guidelines are getting more stringent. So let's say that there was a sale that took place in your neighborhood for 500,000 in the last 6 months, but recently, just as of the last 2 or 3 months, there was something that slid in there at 475. Do you think that's going to be a problem? I do.
Sure, and a good professional also knows either how to speak to a customer to get them to understand and trust their professional judgment, or if they can't, to walk away from business.
Yeah, and one of the other big, from speaking with a lot of realtors, Lewis, is I've been told that working with a good professional too is working with an agent that understands that this appraisal process is a big part of the overall transaction that's going to go through. They should be meeting the appraiser at the house. They should not just let him show up. He could be from out of state. You want to request, you want to see his license, make sure he's in an area that he's familiar with. And if he's not, don't let him come in the house to appraise the house. And if he is, then you want to arm him with, hey, I'm the listing agent on this. I want to give you the comparables that I pulled to price this home. These are similar square footages. Give them the details so he has it in front of him. And I mean, a lot of the times, just from being on the loan side, Lewis, all too many times, if you leave it up to the appraiser to make a decision, ultimately that's going to be a bad decision. You know what I mean? Because they might just decide, well, you know what? I don't think that that's a comparable home that you're using there. I'm just going to take the one I want. And it was the first one that popped up in their search on MLS, so they decided to use it.
Yeah, appraising is an art, not a science. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, real estate agents aren't appraisers, but you know what? In a way, you are kind of, ballparking what these homes are worth based upon what's sold in the past. And, it's very helpful in a transaction to have an agent that works kind of not necessarily as side by side with the appraiser, but kind of guides him. Hey, this is my line of thinking.
One of the things, Ryan, which is good for a consumer to ask if the real estate agent doesn't offer it, is a comparative market analysis. It's not an appraisal, but it actually goes through the comps and it explains how your house fits into the whole scheme of things and what your real estate agent thinks that home is worth or what they intend to list it at.
Absolutely. And in a lot of cases, Lewis, like on a lot of the short sale transactions that are going through, the lenders don't want to pay for a full-blown appraisal, so they'll ask for a CMA and a BPO to be done by the agent, which a lot of the times the banks are just accepting those because they feel like that those are a pretty accurate depiction of what's going on at the time. And I do too.
Oh, yeah. The real estate agent may be in a better position to understand value because they're the ones who actually extract the value when they sell a home than an appraiser might be.
And not to mention that they specialize most of the time in certain cities or certain subdivisions. So
for years.
Yeah, for years they're going to know the area a lot better. And that's why I really emphasize the fact that if the appraiser is from 2 cities over and he's coming into your city to appraise a home and he's only maybe done 1 or 2 there in the last year, you could have a problem. In the DC metro area, literally, I mean, you have city blocks and streets. You go from one to the other, and you could have a $400,000 or $500,000 difference. So if he's not, kind of guided in the right direction for why you price the home that way, and you maybe have a discussion with, hey, if you have any questions or concerns, you're having problems hitting near that sales price, and you need me to give you additional supporting documentation, I can do that. There has to be that. I mean, and part of that big number that we talked about of the cancellations of contracts, Lewis, I think that probably, I would imagine at least half of them have to do with this.
Well, we have heard many stories of people losing homes due to an appraisal that came in lower.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? I think probably even half of the ones that canceled out could have probably been prevented had there been, the right steps taken during that transaction to give the appraiser all the information that he needed up front instead of letting him make the decision. But, it's every real estate transaction is definitely an adventure for everybody. And the best thing to do, like I said, is to arm yourself, prepare yourself for this transaction months in advance of you actually, taking the loan out or writing the sales contract. I mean, it's very intricate. I mean, you can tell, Lewis, all these little itty-bitty things that don't seem like they're much, they could be the difference between you getting a loan and being denied.
I always say it's the small things that get you. It's not the big things that come out of nowhere. It's the small things that you don't pay enough attention to and that you should.
Yeah, and I kind of, it's interesting because I run into so many people now that are just like, I don't understand. Why won't the bank give me a loan? I have $1 million in the bank and they won't give me a $500,000 loan. And the short answer is because they don't have to. And not only that, there are banks that would probably give you a loan, to be honest, but they're going to be the small banks. If you go to a Bank of America, PNC, one of these bigger banks, they're probably not going to be willing to structure a deal because they're going to want to see on your tax returns that you make the income that you say you do. And to be honest, this is a big problem that we have in our market right now. I think that there's a lot of overqualified people out there that don't necessarily document all of the income that they probably should, but they have the assets, they have the credit score. Those are the people that we need to start lending because those are going to be buying in the upper tiers of home prices. And we can really start helping that up, 500,000 and above, really start helping those markets move if we can start getting them some financing. I know a lot of people don't like stated income loans. I'm telling you, there's a way to do those and you can be successful. I would say 780, over 740 credit scores, you have 12 months worth of payments in the bank. You can do that loan with 20% down all day long. Bank's got collateral. It's a good loan. When we come back, we're going to jump into short sales versus foreclosures. Thank you for listening to Real Estate Radio. Be right back.